talking about the perfect relationship. Ooh. And the first thing we need to do is to talk about what does perfect mean? And I know I felt very liberated when one of my teachers said, perfect means lacking nothing essential for the whole. Lacking nothing essential for the whole. So that means all of the parts are necessary for something to be perfect. So the year would not be perfect without all 4 seasons. Right? We have to have the winter, and then the spring, and then the summer, and then the fall. All of those things necessary for the complete wholeness of our environment and our planet. So it's necessary to have seasons, and the same thing is true in relationship, of an intimate relationship, because we're reading Undefended Love, which is about intimate relationships. But it is, we have seasons. You know, there's seasons where we're springy and excited and bright, and then there's the summer where we're hot and we're, you know, doing whatever hot is. And then, it's been so long I don't remember. Anyway. And then, you know, the fall comes, and then it's like, you know, here we are again. And then the winter comes, and oh my goodness, like, oh, will it ever stop? And, you know, getting bored, and things are dark and damp, and just, you know, you're sort of slugging around, you're carrying all the stuff you got to carry, umbrellas and boots and raincoats and all of that stuff. And so we're, you know, same thing in relationship. We're carrying all this stuff, and sometimes we forget that spring will come again. And so we hightail it out of that relationship and get into another one that's spring, where we could have stayed and had spring, and maybe a more perfect spring. So what these folks talk about in this book is that, you know, what happens is we come into this life, spiritual beings, having this essence that is whole, perfect, and complete. That is what they define these qualities of what they call essence. And of course, you know, we all have our different words that we use, but they call them autonomy, contentment, devotion, discernment, faith, grace, gratitude, joy, peace, presence, truth, unconditional love, value, pure will, and I would say willingness, and wisdom. So they define all these things. We came in with that. We came in with the essence of that divine creator within. We came in with that. And then life on earth told us stuff that was not true about us. Or sometimes we misinterpreted what was going on with our parents and took it on as our fault. You know, if they gave us a nasty look, we thought it was because we were bad or wrong, and it may not have had anything to do with us. And sometimes it did, because we were testing our boundaries and doing what kids do and making a mess and all that kind of stuff. And so, you know, it was something on us, but it was about something we did, not about who we were. Right? It's not who we are, it's what we did. And so we learn not to do those things that upset other people. And we develop an idea that we're not whole. They call it in this book that we feel that we're cracked. And they talk about it like a mirror. You know, when you look at a perfect mirror, you get a reflection. But if the mirror is broken, then you get a distorted picture of yourself. So what happens is we get these cracks in the image from other people that makes us think that we're less than whole, less than perfect, that we're a burden, we're too needy, because we're a little kid who needs everything, and sometimes mom just can't handle it, or dad just hasn't had enough, and we think, oh, I'm bad, I'm wrong, I'm evil, and all of these things. We take that on. But what we do is we develop what they call compensating identities. So we have this cracked identity. I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I'm bad, I'm evil, blah, blah, blah. And then we have these compensating identities, which are sort of imitation essence. So instead of autonomy, we have independence. I can do this myself. I can handle this. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. John Wayne. And then, instead of being content, you're called easygoing. What you're doing when you're easygoing is you're pretending it doesn't bother you. It really does. Compliance instead of devotion. So you're complying with what is expected, but it's not really an act of the heart. It's not really an act of devotion. You have, instead of discernment, that is discerning what is true for you, you judge either yourself or others. So you develop all these compensating identities. You're calm, but that's not peace. And what happens is you have these compensating identities, and these compensatory qualities, they imitate what we truly are, and when we're compensating, we feel insecure, rigid, and defensive. We have little tolerance for being seen in any way other than how we see ourselves. So we get very defensive when people try to bring to our attention some qualities that may be less than perfect. But you know what? They're all perfect. All relationships are perfect. As one of my teachers said, everyone in your life is either your teacher or your lover. And the teachers are those who are bringing your awareness to something in yourself that needs healing. It's poking the crack underneath your compensatory identity. It is making a painful thing occur because those cracked places are very tender. And so when somebody pokes it, the first thing we want to do is, knock them around the block or run away, right? So what we have to do, they say in this book, is that we have to recognize what the feeling is that's coming up for us. Because it's about us. It's about realizing and recognizing, as Ernest says at one point, if one sees only unloveliness in others, it is because unloveliness is a strong element in himself. The light he throws on others is generated in his own soul and sees them as he chooses to see them. So in other words, we're seeing these other individuals, and actually they are mirroring us, and sometimes in a really dramatic way, something that is going on with us. Now maybe in us it isn't quite that dramatic, but it's pointing out there's something here that is looking for healing. There's something here that wants to be overcome through the process of going back to essence. And the problem is, returning to that essence is a process that involves us feeling that feeling and going through it. And we don't like to feel miserable. We don't like to feel painful. We don't like that. And yet, if we take the time to really listen to it, to go through it, and it feels like hell, and as Winston Churchill said, when you're going through hell, keep going. Keep going. So we have to keep going. We have to be in a safe space to do this. You can't just do it, while you're driving your car. You have to find a safe space. You go through it. You feel it, feel it, feel it. And when you feel, you get beyond it. And what you get to is that essence of love, that essence of wholeness, that essence of faith, that essence of grace, that essence that we are. We get through it and we realize that. And when we do that, what they say is that we have what they call the flip. And the flip is when the pain to not be living in your essence is greater than the pain of that false identity you've created. So you actually miss not living authentically. And that's what we really are meant to do here, is to live our unique, authentic lives. Ernest says over and over, unity does not mean uniformity. Each of us, I love how that happens. We have a haunted light. It's just letting us know, here's the light. The light is present. Right here. So she talks about this couple that met at the University of Chicago. They got married. They moved to Arizona, and they established a successful practice there, and things were going fine. But the husband kept needing her to express her love every day, all the time. And it was like he has this underlying cracked identity of not being lovable. And so he has to have outside validation for that. And so he keeps wanting to have, her tell him every day how much she loves him and take care of him and all these things. And she is like doing it. And then she's like, I'm really getting sick of this. And it was like a self-fulfilling prophecy, because he believed he was unlovable, because he needed that love all the time and needed that validation all the time. He actually created a situation where she left. They got a divorce. And her thing was that she, always had a feeling of powerlessness. So her crack was powerlessness. So she was, in that space of powerlessness, and so she couldn't move through that either. She had to run away. She had to leave, because she couldn't just take back her power and say, look, I love you, you love me, we can work through this, but we have to find out what's going on underneath what's going on. Because what's going on isn't what's real. We're covering up some stuff, and we need to dig it up, and it may be nasty, and it may be dirty, and it may be yucky, and we need to get through it to clean it out. It's sort of like we gotta, let all that pus out. Yeah. But that's what it is. Sort of, this, we've got a wound, and the body has to heal from the inside, right? But if we don't keep it clean, we get infected. We get all that swelling and yucky stuff. We have to clean it out in order to heal, to let us heal from the inside out. So a good relationship is really about each of us preparing to do our healing together, to make a safe space where we can do the healing together for these cracks that we believe we have, which we don't really have, but we think we have. So we have to recognize that essence. So we have to do the old Namaste, the recognizing the God in each other. I saw this they have a quote in here. The Namaste is, I honor the place within you where the entire universe resides. I honor the place within you of love and light, of peace and truth. I honor the place within you where, when you are in that place in you, and I am in that place in me, there is only one of us. When you are in that place in you, and I am in that place in me, then there's only one of us. And we've been studying Joseph Campbell, and he talks about, us trying to, the myth says that we were once one and then we got split. And we've been trying to find our wholeness ever since with each other. But we have to find that wholeness within before we can find it with each other. Because it's there. It's there. And when we have that place of wholeness in us, then we can recognize the place of wholeness in another. And that's when we can really connect. And this is true, we use it in this case for a personal relationship, but we also have to remember that we have all these relationships in politics and between nations and everything else, all of these relationships. And we've got all kinds of underlying stuff there too, all kinds of feelings of not enough, or I'm better than you are, or, but when I say I'm better than you are, I'm really afraid that I'm not better than you are. And so we have to deal with these same issues as a collective. And we also have to acknowledge, some of the dark stuff that we have done as a society, to the Native American peoples, to the African American peoples, to people here in our country or people in other countries where we have gone in and made decisions about who's going to live where and who's going to rule whom, and we've done some stuff. And the only way we can get over that stuff is to acknowledge it and to say, and today is a new day, and we're not going to do that stuff anymore. But we have to acknowledge that we've done it, because otherwise we'll keep doing it. Because we keep thinking it's working, but it isn't working. I mean, when are we going to get that war does not create peace? I mean, it does for a little while, but it usually sets up the stuff that's going to create the next war in the process. We have to find a better way. We have to find, so that's why I love, coming together with that interfaith group, because here's all these different religions that used to fight each other and war with each other and, beat each other up. I mean, religion has a really horrific history of wars and hatred and all of that kind of stuff. And there are those who say, the 21st century will be spiritual or it will not be. And when we say it's spiritual, that means we come together regardless of our religious practices, regardless of our cultural practices. We come together as people of faith and acknowledge that the basis of faith is love, and that love is universal, and that we all have it. We all have access to it, and we all need to practice it. Now that is the key piece here. We can read all the books in the world, but we don't practice it, it doesn't have an effect in the world. We have to, faith without works is dead, as James said. So it's about practicing. And for us, in the science of mind, our practice is having prayer and meditation every day. Because what we're doing is we're establishing a relationship with that infinite presence within. That presence that we said was available for guidance and direction. Well, we are required to make the effort to set up the lines of communication. You know, it's sort of like, you had an old friend, and then you let that friend go, and then you decided that you want to get in touch with them, but how are you going to find them? You know, you're looking on Facebook, you're Googling them, all these kinds of things. But if you don't keep in touch, you lose that connection. Now, the thing is, we can't really lose the connection, but we can forget that we have the connection. We forget that we have the connection because we can't lose God. It's present everywhere. And it's loving us regardless of what we're up to. But we keep thinking we're separate and we don't have a relationship. So, but like any relationship, you have to make an effort to connect. So that's why we have a prayer and a meditation. I'm not saying you have to meditate for an hour. I'm saying, 5 minutes. If you could do 5 minutes, that's great. 1 minute is greater than nothing. But, just sitting in a space where you can say, I'm open to the presence of God. And it's amazing, amazing, amazing what happens when you do that on a regular basis. Things start showing up. Synchronicities start happening. There is the universe responding to us by corresponding to our willingness to connect and to be the creative life force that we are meant to be. Ernest Holmes said, if the philosophy of Christianity were lived, wars would cease, unhappiness would cease, economic problems would be solved, poverty would be wiped from the face of the earth, and man's inhumanity to man would be transmuted into a spirit of mutual helpfulness. But it's not. G.K. Chesterton said, it's not that Christianity has been tried and found wanting, it's been wanted and never tried. So it's about not necessarily adopting Christianity, but all of the great masters, all of the Buddha, Christ, Gandhi, all of these spiritual teachers have been trying to tell us to listen, to be present to life, to realize that everything and everyone is sacred. Everything and everyone is sacred. Nothing outside of God. No thing outside of God. But it's about remembering. Yesterday when I was at the conference, we were cleaning up. And Jerry Farrell up at Unity. That was a blast from the past. Jerry Farrell said, he had this bumper sticker, and the bumper sticker said, respond with love. And apparently one of his congregants had that on her car. And she was in Staples, and she was looking out the window, and this guy walked by her car and sort of looked down at the car bumper sticker and was like, and walked off. And she thought, I wonder which bumper sticker that was. And she went out and she saw it, and it said, respond with love. And she was like, hey! And then she thought, oh, respond with love. We forget so quickly. We forget so quickly. So it's about remembering. It's about knowing who we are, the presence of God, recognizing that presence of God in one another, and especially in our intimate relationships, recognizing that presence, being forgiving and welcoming of the opportunity to heal together. And so our affirmation for this week is, my relationship with God is always perfect. 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 And we also have our covenant for the new minister. So we're going to say that together because we're calling it in through our collective consciousness. We are calling in this new, exciting, vital, vibrant new minister. All right. God has promised, so powerful is the light of unity that it can illuminate the whole earth. Purpose. My new minister is the unity that I am. I see my new minister, our vision, empowering our thriving spiritual community. Our universal intentions for our new minister are to inspire me to live in unity as an expression of love, to awaken me to the wisdom within, to embody the consciousness of wholeness in community and organizational well-being. The community intentions for my new minister are to offer mystical teachings that illuminate the science of mind principles, to be a loving and beneficial presence in the greater community in support of social activism. And so it is.